everybody, welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, Ann, Disembodied Hands, Quindy, Justin, and John, and Kiki! Good girl! Here's your treat. I had to bribe her this time. She knows she's not supposed to be that. Alright, good. Good girl. Go settle. Yep. We're on, Kiki, we're on. We have to pay attention to this. Get your ball. No, come on. You gotta stay within range, girly. So yesterday, when I was working in here in the afternoon, I just left the gate open and the door open and let her, she just laid down out in the hallway. Hoping she'll do that today. I may have to block her in. But she didn't want to sit in here. Yeah, she settled down right outside the door. All right, cool, excellent. That's good. That's exactly where I want her. Where I can keep half an eyeball at her during the stream. You know how it goes, puppy brain. Yeah, so we have Jeannie today. Yeah, so you've got your Kiki sighting. Very good, everybody. This is your incentive to tune in the beginning, because otherwise she'll be asleep and she won't want to be in here. Can you settle, Pop? You gonna settle? You can settle. You can come in here and settle if you want. Oh, we have a fly swatter. Do you want me to move it? Hold on. Yeah, is it gonna bother your rest? Is it going to impinge upon your rest? I'm going to put it over here. There, now you can't see it when you're in here. Come on. Come on, geeks, we're going in here. We have a fly swatter that's terrifying because it's fallen over since she was a puppy. It's kind of like, I'm going to adjust my camera a little bit too. There. It just kind of sits right at the gate area. Kiki, come on. And so she's scared of it. And it's ridiculous. I don't know if she's going to get like a lot bigger twistoma. I mean, she's smaller than a lot of Shilohs at her age. We probably pulled the short genes, a little bit of the short genes from the Wetterhound and from Grandma Nova. Yeah, your grandma was short. Yes, she was. But, yeah, I think if we hit 26 inches, which is Shiloh female minimum, we'll be good. I think we're between 22 and we could be about 23 right now. 23 inches at the shoulder. And definitely she's got the width, which is what I want. I don't so much care about a tall dog at this point, but we need more breadth, more wide bodies in our breed. So we've got a lot of dogs that are kind of narrow. Good girl. She's settled, so that's good. The more settled Kiki is, the more settled I am. Oh, yeah, the cold. But yeah, I think she's going to stay smaller. Smaller but wide. Like, she's got, like, serious, like, width going on. We call her the trunk. All right, let's get some tropical blue out. We're going to work on blues today. I do want, we can get away with, on this model, we can get away with shading in purples. We shaded the peach in purples, as you recall. So I won't be able to use Runic on this because Runic's about the same shade as this. I need to go a little darker, but I can start with Runic. Here, I'll show you. So if you kind of put the colors next to each other and you kind of like narrow your eyes and kind of squint at them, you do see that the purple does seem to be darker, but not by a lot than the blue. So I can see, but I'm betting it's not dark enough. Settle down, Geekster. If you can't settle, then I have to confine you. Silly dog. So I'll probably reach for Monarch in that case, which is much significantly darker. I could also go for something like Rich Indigo. If I wanted to go with that purpley kind of feel, I could go there. Good girl. Yeah, good girl. Good girl. She's like, Mama's going to be boring for an hour, and then I'm going to start barking at her. Hello, everybody. Cat Dragon versus Cookies. Yeah, hi there, good girl. Hi, good girl, Kiki. Good girl. You can come in, but I need you to settle and not pace all morning. I tried to take her out twice and she would not potty, so it's like, the dog. This is the downside of having the dog out of her crate for the morning. The upside being that she is much better behaved, which is why I'm doing it. So we're going to get our tropical blue out. Hey, good girl. You hanging out? You can hang out. Yeah, I gotta talk to my invisible people. Yeah, gotta talk to the invisible people. Oh, yeah. Wind chill for sure. So when I put these two in the palette, I think I get a better idea. Like, you can see this is maybe one shade darker, relatively speaking, but not dark enough. If I tried to use this for a shadow on here, it would just probably would not work. Let's actually do it and just like give it a try, just to show you what I mean. I'm gonna thin these guys down. And I will get a little bit of monarch purple in there too, just because. Or maybe I'll just wait on that. All right, where's my mixing brush? There it is. Haha, sacrificial mixing brush. But yeah, this is essentially just not going to be dark enough to create a realistic shadow. Instead, we're going to look more like we're making a multicolored smoke, which is cool and all, but it's not what I want. Yes, yes. Kearney goes over the pond entirely. Unless you meant what part of Scotland is she in? Yep. Alrighty, so when I try to do some stippling, say, with our runic purple here, chances are it's not going to be nearly dark enough. Let's get in here. It'll look magic. It is a little darker. Or in Karniko's case, good cooking. So that's okay. And it depends on, if you're doing a traditional smoke where there's not much difference between the mid-tone and the shadow, then maybe. I need to blend this in though, so I'm going to grab some of my tropical blue and blend that. It's not, you can see it's very subtle. So it will give us that magical smoke effect if we want to do that. But I think I might want to have some a little bit darker, so I'm going to grab some monarch purple as well. For the really deep crevices, I think I'll use that. So where's Braemar? That they always get the extreme relatively in the like west, east, north. I don't know my Scottish geography. So the monarch purple is a beautiful dark purple. It's really saturated. And I'm going to pop a little bit of my runic purple into that because I don't want really to go that dark on my smoke. So I'm going to take a big brush full of this and mix it in, which is going to give me something a lot like orchid purple. Maybe not as red. You can settle, Kiki. Nobody's here. Hello, Dogfather. Hey, Keekster, I assure you that no one is here. Good girl. Can you settle? Yeah, can you settle, dog? Hi. Hi, good girl. Yeah, can you settle down? Yeah, it's time to stream. It's time to stream, Keeks. I don't want to be worried about you all day. I don't. Should I just put you in here? I know you're not happy in here. It's not as happy. She likes the hallway because it's cold. All right, so let's get this going on. So those are our colors. Hi, good girl. Can you settle? Good girl. Good girl. Trying to get the restless puppy to settle here. So all right, so we started out with our runic purple, which is a little bit, I'm going to grab a little bit of my darker purple and put it just way down in the middle of that crevice right there. So I want a little bit more solidity up here because his smoke is turning into him. I don't drink anymore. It's this time of year that makes me sad that I'm like a non-drinker at this point because all the winter beers are out. I love a good winter ale. There we go. So essentially when I've got more shallow crevices, I use the runic. And then when I've got deeper stuff, I'm going to bring in that monarch to really darken this stuff down. Hey, girly girl, you gotta settle. Are you going to eventually settle? She's just going to pace. She's like, Mama, Mama. Oh well, she'll figure it out eventually and she'll get into her routine. So I've layered this in and I'm bringing in more tropical blue to blend with kind of a stippling stroke while it's still wet. Yeah, I agree, Daytime Road Dog. We just were discussing those of us who couldn't drink, and I was just saying that because we were saying that Kerniko had good alcohol in Scotland to keep her warm, but she does not drink, so it is sadly useless to her. And so I can put purple essentially down under here all I want, underneath here, blocking these darker areas. Oh, good. Every time she settles down, I'm like, oh, good, and then she stands up again. So I'm going to blend that in a little bit more there. We will be also taking the smoke up a bit for contrast. Straight booze was never good on my stomach. Straight hard liquor, rather. So the darker you bring in here, the more it's, the more the smoke will look solid. And we don't want it to look totally solid, so I'm bringing in some of my tropical blue. So really what you're looking for with smoke is you want some nice smooth blends. You can't have any sharp shadows or highlights. You want everything to be very soft. Nice. We're in Mexico. I was in Puerto Vallarta around this time last year. HM Road Dog. We went after Christmas. My dad wanted us to do a family vacation. It was pretty cool to have a good art scene. So David and I had a lot of fun going around to galleries. Oh, nice. So you did yeah, far different than we were doing. That's very cool. I assume you enjoyed yourself, other than, you know, not being a fan of their alcohol. It's thinning. Remember, these are a little more transparent, but I'm thinning them 2-to-1 paint to water. I'm using a well palette so I can control it, which is kind of key because then, you know, I'm not always trying to mix every brush full. I'm also doing a lot of wet blending here, Valthorn, which is pretty easy in cold weather. It's not drying real fast back here. So essentially I can take my, say, purple and plop it in there, and then right away go and grab some of my blue and kind of stipple against that edge. And it'll create a softer, I still have a little bit of harder angle over here, but because my blue is somewhat transparent, it's mixing, but it's also like layering, right? So, hey, Red Legs. Oh, I see. 4 shows in 4 days, so fast then. But yeah, so I'm not layering it. I'm utilizing layering and I'm utilizing wet blending, and I'm kind of doing a mashup of both. It helps that the colors are not terribly high coverage. If you're using a line that is higher coverage, it's going to be painful to try to do this without thinning it a lot. I know because I used to use Vallejo, and Vallejo is very thick out of the bottle, and I had to thin it so much to get it to where I wanted it. I just remember that pain. That's why with Master Series I wanted a more fluid base. That would mean you didn't have to work so hard to get the paint to the point where you could really play with it. Now I could also just do texture here. If I didn't want to do smooth, I could do stippling. Kind of like we did with the water, but with smoke colors. I mean, smoke is made up of particles, right? So here we were very much going to build up like a foam effect. So if you were doing this with smoke, your lights would be a lot more wide. Your shadows would be a lot slimmer, and you would also glaze to kind of blend in the stipples instead of leaving the specks of foam like I did on Fishy. Yeah, I mean, okay, so it's second nature to me now, but after I rinse my brush, I'm taking it and I'm just like pretty much running it right through here. I just have a habitual thing where I turn it and pull it through to get my tip back. So I've still got water in the brush. It's still damp, but not a ton. Not enough for, the water isn't going to impact my paint consistency is the point here. I have enough water in my brush to keep the paint wet. And I don't have enough water in my brush to impact paint consistency. That's kind of the magic point you're looking for. And I'm totally too low in this because I tilted my camera yesterday to like show the puppy, and then I got my camera all out of whack. There we are. We're a little better there. Excellent. Ah, yeah, only one flight. Yeah, so essentially, yeah, getting enough water on your brush, because you want it to still be damp, but you don't want it to actually, like, have water in it. So I squeeze it out. You could do the same effect if you just use your fingers. Ta-da. That would give you the exact same effect, just using 3 fingers to point your brush, that I get, as far as the amount of water in the brush. And then loading, if I'm doing, say, let's do this one. I'm probably putting in my shadow, like I have a fair amount of paint in here. I'm probably blocking in my shadow a lot here, but then I'm going to take that paint out of the brush a lot, load up some of this, and just start stippling over the edge to get a wet blend. I have a little bit too much purple on there, which is why it's sliding right there. So I'm going to actually rinse out my brush and pull it off a little bit. Use the excess to kind of paint down under the swirl here. Paper towel is bad. Paper towel will, well, I mean, okay. Damp sponge works better. paper towel, I tend not to use. It tends to pick up fibers. It really sucks everything out of your brush. I've just never, yeah, paper towel, not my favorite. I would use a damp sponge. Not a dry sponge. I believe that Rhonda says the same thing. She uses a damp sponge. But don't quote me on that because painters' methods always change over time, I know. So doing a little bit of stippling. Yeah, I'm not a fan of paper towels. They're it's too dry, it wicks off too much moisture too fast. I definitely don't ever do it when layering. Like there are people who will load up their layering brush and then they'll just touch it to a paper towel to try to take more of the excess off, and that is a big no-no because that completely changes your paint consistency. Otherwise, paper towels, like, it's the fibers and it's like the fact that they can dry off your brush more. I just dip it right back into the paint. Like, okay, here we go. Let me show you my technique. I did this because I used to be a brush licker, and then a friend of mine got cancer. And I decided I was never brush licking anymore. And so here we go. Here is the methodology. And I just started doing it. Like, honestly, I think I used to, like, do this, which is just easy. Okay, I've got a brush full of water. What do? Just squeeze it out. Now I dip it in my paint. Now I paint. Done. What I do, because I've just, like, gotten so used to it, is, oh, I've got this brush full of water. Oh, no. And I just squeeze it right here. You can see the water that came out. Just let it fall into that crack, and I'm turning the brush just a couple times as I pull it out, and that gives me a perfect point. Now that takes a bit more practice, and it will have to, I don't know how I developed that. I just like got into that habit, and now it's my habit. Yep, one hand to squeeze. Yeah, so easy. Boom, done. Yep. So that is how I do it. But, I mean, I don't even remember how that started. Probably just, like, I was thinking, well, I need to squeeze the water out, and so I put it down there, and then pulling it out, it was easy to just, like, if you put your brush there, and you close your fingers around it, it's when you try to pull it up and out, it's natural to turn it a little bit with your fingers. And so I think that's how it became a thing. Yeah, ice storms in Texas, I remember. I think I'm going to mix a highlight here just so we can start kind of getting a feel for how the smoke is going to actually look. So I'm going to grab my tropical blue, and I do want to use a little bit of a greenish color to highlight. I believe we were not using copper verdigris, we were probably using spectral glow. Spectral glow. And then down here we're going to go spectral glow, and we're going to go up even greener. But yeah, I mean, you can get the same effect just by like taking your brush and doing a 3-fingered squeeze with your brush in the middle of the 3 fingers, and you're going to get the same effect, the same amount of water in your brush. Yeah, I avoid using absorbent things to pull water out of my brush anymore. I find that they dry out too much, and then it doesn't really help with my paint consistency. Just my experience. Guys, do you, like, seriously. But if I seem like I heard paper towel and went, eek, that's because, yeah, a lot of people use paper towels when layering, and that's causes my knee-jerk reaction, because I'm like, because essentially what happens when you touch your brush to the paper towel and you have paint in it is all the water wicks down into the paper towel, and very little of the paint does, very little of the pigment and the resin. So you essentially you thicken your paint again, and if you're trying to layer, that's like, no, it's not going to work. You're going to get streakiness. So yeah. But yeah, Valthorn, try a damp sponge. Or just try the squeeze. Either way, I mean, I want to help you get results. Like, I without seeing you paint and seeing you mix your paint, it's hard for me to troubleshoot over the interwebs. But part of me wants very much to help you, so if we can figure out, like, what it is. But yeah, I do a lot of wet blending, so that could be it. And if you live in a really arid environment, you may find that hard. So then it may be down to layering more, right? Well, wet blending has become so much a part of my process. Oh, my spectral glow is like, no, he wants a dragon head, Spooky Tool, it says. Dragon head pookie tool needs to come in there. Oh, there we go. Now we have paint. Now I need to wipe off dragon head pookie tool. Dragon head pookie tool's paint job is holding up pretty well, by the way. Wow, yeah, we have some serious like resistance here with my spectral glow. Hey, wow, okay, we gotta sing. Hopefully it doesn't wake up the puppy. It probably will. Triple sub-anniversary, triple sub-anniversary, triple sub-anniversary, happy triple sub-anniversary. Thank you, HM Road Dog, for the 36 months. It's been a lot of singing lately. Y'all must have joined at the same time. Oh, do they say it's bad for brushes, the twirling? You know, this just goes to show, guys. It really is everybody's their own experience, right? It really, really is. I can show you what works for me. And it might, and everybody's got the caveat, it might not work for you. We don't know, like, maybe your hands are really big. Maybe the brush squeeze just doesn't work. Maybe you just press really hard. And so you're going to hurt your brush by twirling. I don't know, right? It's you. That's what this is why. And the best thing to do is to like think about this hobby as one big adventure exploration game, one big Skyrim just for you. It's painting Skyrim. And so you should run amok and try everything until you find the parts of the game that resonate with you, that you really love, that work for you, right? It's so true. See, I don't know, Big Chimpo. I don't know about that. Here, let's try this. Let's actually experiment with this theory, this interesting theory that my brain kind of goes, well, but then again, maybe that painter just presses really hard when he squeezes, because if he does, like I'm very loosely. Can you guys see here? So I'm very loosely holding this. You can see that my fingers are not closed. Like now they're closed gently. I'm going to do the twirl. Yeah, I can see what he's talking about. You can see that there's a little bit of a twirl there on my big brush. I didn't see it on my small brush though. That's my number 3, by the way. So if he uses a number 2, I could see that. But on this brush, I'm not seeing a twirl. And this is my number 1 Da Vinci Maestro. It's kind of beat up at this point, but so what I'm thinking is, if you use a bigger brush, like, and so many painters do use a number 2, right? So if you use a bigger brush, you can see that the hairs twirl there, right? So maybe on a big brush, then this is better. But I don't know that twirling is going to damage the brush. And the hairs, unless you like leave it that way overnight and stuff. See, look at this makes it triple. I've got like a 3-angled brush. This is kind of funny. It's got like actual edges. But this brush, the big brushes, I find, this is a big fat round too, so I have to be real gentle with pointing it. But yeah, I can see the twirl of the hair on the big brush. I do not see it on the small brush. So yeah, I mean, if he's got like brush production like stuff, he trumps me on that for sure. I'm just looking at what I can see. Even with, I'm sorry, but this is part of me. Understand that it's part of me. He knows better than me. I will still question it. I will still try it myself. I always do. I always question the premise. I don't care how expert you are. I once told a geneticist I was gonna like question her premise, and she was just like, all right. And I did the test, and I'm like, hey, it looks like you were right. And she's like, I know. And I'm like, I had to do it for myself. Because she didn't know our breed. And I was like, well. So yeah, so I am that person. I do not accept anybody at face value. I think about it a lot. Yeah, I'm going to still twirl, because if I can't see a difference in my small brush, then chances are it's not going to be a big deal. And I think I do, like I said, I suspect that the twirling also, how hard you're squeezing, right, is going to make a difference. I'm going to throw some water into my mix. But yeah, I can see how if you squeeze hard, you could you could essentially do that repetitively. And just like any repeated motion, it's going to have an impact. So I could see how that would be a thing. I just haven't ever noticed it in my own brushes. So yeah, probably a good piece of general advice. And like if you are more of a gentle squeezer or you use smaller brushes or you don't turn as much, I'm not going to stop because I've been doing it for years and I still manage to make my brushes last for, you know, months and months and months. Painting as much as I do. All right, so this is a 50-50 mix of Spectral Glow and Tropical. It's a very pretty aqua. That definitely sounds like a cottage, Twisted Oma. Very tiny cottage. All right. Now, as we get lighter, I am going to start stippling more and making tiny little dots. Now, these are going to dry right after I put them down. I'm going to get closer again, sorry. Got entranced with my experimentation. Right, exactly. Exactly. Like maybe my brushes do wear a little faster than they would if I didn't twirl them, right? But overall, I'm not too concerned because they still last long enough for me. And the fact is now that just that unloading is really an ingrained habit. And I'm just going to stick with it because it works for me so well. If it means that I have to buy brushes, you know, a couple months earlier than I otherwise would, then oh well, guess that's going to be a thing. So just little stipples here. Now, unlike with the water where I would stop there, I would actually keep going a bit here. And I probably would glaze. So I'm going to grab some of this blue and I'm going to pop it over into another well. I'm going to pop some water into it to make it even thinner. Oh, paper towel is just like when you unload water out of your brush. Some people use paper towel. I don't like it because it's fibers and I find that it sucks all the water out of my brush, and I would like a little bit of water left in my brush. To keep the paint wet for longer in my brush because I use small brushes. That's again a caveat, right? If you're not using small brushes, then you don't need all that water in your brush. So if you are not using a little brush, don't necessarily need that advice. But the other one is if you're layering. I knew somebody who, when they loaded up their brush for layering, they would unload their brush on a paper towel, and what essentially was happening was all the water was coming out of the load of paint that they had on their brush, but the pigments and resins and everything were still mostly staying in it, and so essentially they changed their paint consistency for the worst every time they did that, as far as layering goes anyway. So I'm just making glaze, and I'm just pretty much spot glazing it over the top here. Also, while the glaze is wet, I can come in with some stippling, and it'll essentially be wet blending because the paint will diffuse slightly through the glaze. The glaze will try to dry pretty quick, though, depending on your climate. So keep an eye on that. Obviously, you don't want to mess with the glaze after it has started to dry or your paint will peel up. It is a thing. It does happen. Oh, I forgot to line there. Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, absolutely. It is a whole different, it's just a different methodology. And you know what? My very analytical, very tuned way of painting, it doesn't work for everybody. So I totally missed that there was a little loop of fog there. Yeah, Vallejo was super thick. Man, I remember sitting in the game store with my friends at Paint Club, working with Vallejo and trying to get it to layering consistency and having to just keep on. Every time I loaded water into it, I was like, yeah, this is gonna be it. And then it was, you know, needing more water. It was just like a lot. So yeah, once I started developing MSP, I was very much interested in doing a paint that did not require so much thinning and that would stay in suspension when thinned, which Vallejo did not very well. But that's like not necessarily Vallejo's strength. Like almost all of the other paint lines on the market right now, possibly all of them, are formulated for, oh no, I just saw a squirrel running by with a lemon in its mouth. Like it had this huge lemon in its mouth. I'm sorry guys, had to share. It was just like, I'm used to seeing them with like nuts or whatever, you know, in their mouths, but that squirrel was carrying this lemon. Insane. Silly squirrel. It's going to be very sour. But yes, back to this. Many of the other paints that I like to use, like I'm experimenting, you know, I like the Scale Color Artist, right, tube paints. Those are really thick, but their advantage is they can add some coverage right out the gate. So I can work with them that way, and when it comes down to, I also can grab just a little bit and use a lot of water. That's kind of the key. If you're using a thicker paint line and you just like it because you like the coverage, when it comes to thinning, just use only like 1 drop of paint. And then it'll, you know, thin it with water. Figure out your ratios from that. Don't try to start with the 4 drops of paint that I do, because with a thick paint, that's going to take you forever to thin down. And it's going to overflow your well or cover your whole palette. It is. Grand Oracle, that is a direct effect of the coverage. I have talked about paint chemistry before on this stream, but in very short and succinct way. The resin that gives the best coverage is also the weakest and has the least adhesion. It's the softest resin. And so it does not, it does tend to peel. And it tends to rub off very easily, especially when you're thinning it. So I'm going to want this softer still. So I'm going to stipple it just a little bit here and there, and then I'm going to glaze again. Probably need my glaze to be a little stronger. We have a chili bush too, but I think they know better at this point, Cornico. But yeah, Grand Oracle, that is why. Vallejo, you were not imagining things. Vallejo does peel more easily. It is because of the base that they use and the resin in that base. And the thing is, you can get a base with good adhesion like Reaper, and what you sacrifice is coverage, because the bases that are a higher adhesion are also more transparent. So you really, right now at least, until they solve these problems with chemistry, with the magic of chemistry, you really, it's a one or the other. And many paint lines just default to coverage, because that's what gamer painters want, right? They want coverage. They want quick coat done. Just want to get a basic paint job on their stuff so it looks good on the tabletop. So we got that kind of swirl coming up. It looks a little lighter on the screen than it is an actual person. I think I want some purple in there. But yeah, so not saying that paint science can't solve this issue, but right now it's really one or the other. Like, you can kind of do a hybrid. I think this Scale Color is a hybrid, where you're using acrylic, but you're also using an acrylic equivalent resin, and you're also using a resin that is softer to try to increase coverage, and you're kind of doing a hybrid blend of them. And I think that, I'm pretty sure that's what Scale Color is really an equivalent to, Scale 75 stuff, just from the way it acts. But, I mean, there's lots of other stuff, too, and they're always working, like, scientists are always working to make a new product, you know. Scale Artist stays in solution very well. And the transparency or opacity in Scale Artist is very much determined by the pigments that are used, just like Master Series. That's why I think that they tend to, their philosophy is probably more like MSP in that case. So whatever binder they're using. I haven't touched Chimera yet. I have a full set, the original set of Chimera colors right next to me here. I was gonna do a thing for my Patreon coming up. Probably start next month, unless I really, really get excited for it this month. but I wanted to do how to mix everything. So like mixing skin tone, leather colors, you know, all sorts of stuff like that. Just using the, and running the Chimera through their paces. Although I know the matteness is going to drive me nuts, but I can fix that. We have an additive for that. Thank you for the spam there, Quindy. That's where you can find my Patreon, my YouTubes, which has fundamentals of miniature painting videos on it. Maybe after Christmas I'll actually get time to do the last 3 videos for that fundamentals series. I'll probably force myself to make time for it. But we do have a lot up there already. And then, yeah, the Patreon is patreon.com/paintingbig. And yeah, I'll be doing some mixing with the Chimeras. I've been mixing in some reviews of other paint lines, especially when I'm interested in them. But with this Chimera thing, with this how to mix everything, I'm also going to be giving the MSP equivalents and probably the scale color artist equivalents as well for each of the colors, so that you can use the techniques that I show, the mixing techniques that I show with any line. And we've got that, which is our color that we used actually down here. Probably a mix. Where do I want a little white in that? I think I want a little white in my Spectral Glow. It's very similar in shade to the half and half. Well, maybe I'll try it straight up, but I think I might have to mix it. You can always do an experiment and see if it works. The best spam. Yeah, I haven't used the regular. I guess that's a lie. I did use regular scale color once, just because they had a purple I really wanted when I was painting a commission model. But otherwise, the scale color artist are the tube paints, and I like these. Like I love how these mix with MSP. I mix them with MSP about 50-50, and I love it. I like having access to some of these pigments, like the Queen of Credone Red, which is not a pigment I had access to for Reaper. These artist pigments tend to be more expensive, and industrial pigments are going for the less expensive and much more light fast. So it's some of the artist pigments I just never could have used. Oh, the scale color, the regular scale color, Valthorn? Yeah. Well, you could always eBay or something. I mean, terrible coverage is like can be a good thing if you're looking, you know, for that. Like, I mean, Master Series does not have perfect coverage. We decided we wanted adhesion and thinability more. So it is possible. If scale color really has that bad of coverage, maybe it would be a good glazing and good for glazing and layering. I don't know. I didn't think that it was very good for layering when I tried it. That purple, I just really wanted the color, so I worked with it. But that was a while ago, and scale. The one thing I do like about Scale 75 is they do take feedback into account in their paint lines. Like, they really want to put out a superior product, and they listen to what miniature painters say. So I always do it. Like, not with, actually, yeah, with this lady and with my Anubis. But all the colors are, except for the white. I refuse to use anybody's white but Reapers. They're just, there's no reason. But every other color on this model was made by mixing scale color with a Reaper color. So depending on how crazy I want to go, yeah, that was okay. I think I do want some white in that. Gonna put some white in my Spectral Glow. Bring it up a little bit. I'm not getting as much punch as I wanted out of it. Scale color for Monument. I haven't even heard of Monument. Is there a miniatures company that's kind of like that Monument is tied to? Or is it a kind of a separate paint line? And what's it like? Tell me, the big, tell me. Tell me what this Monument line is. I haven't heard of it. Yeah, I got mine too, Dogfather. Oh, they make Pro Acryl. Oh, okay. I got it. Yeah, Pro Acryl I'm met on. The thing I didn't like about it is that I noticed that it shifted color a lot when it dried. At least the red that I was working with. I always work with reds because they tell me a lot about a paint line. So when I'm trying another paint line, a new paint line, I always look at the red. Trying the reds will give you a lot of information about what that paint line designer was aiming for. Because red is a color that can go more opaque, or it can go more transparent, and it can go a whole bunch of different ways, and there's a lot of different pigments available to work with. So that's why I always try the red. But yeah, I noticed when I thinned it, it shifted, it dried big time. Yeah, everything's going super flat. Like, what the bleep, people? Do miniatures paint companies not understand the thing that artists have, like canvas artists have understood forever, which is that absolute matteness deforms color? Like, this is why Master Series paint is eggshell. Like, it's between satin and true matte, and we never go to true matte. There are a couple that I like a lot, Grand Oracle. I wanted the Alizarin Crimson equivalent, for one. They also have, like, there weren't, like, that many. There were some of them that I'll probably never use, but I wanted the 12 set because it was cheaper. Let me see, hold on. Oh, I put them in the other room. You're doomed. But yeah, there was an Alizarin Crimson. There was a Payne's Gray. Those were the two that I most wanted, and I didn't want to wait. I wanted to get them early. Didn't want to wait for them to release in individual tubes. What's up, Pa? What's up? Can you settle? Did I wake you up? I got up and she woke up. Come on, you can settle down. She's like, are we still doing this? Oh, hi, Kiki. Hi. Hi, good pens. Yeah, good girl. You gonna settle? Mom's still working. Mom's still working, big head. Yeah, I'm still working. Large McBig head. Yeah, good girl. Yep, we painting. Yeah, we're painting. Hi. Yeah, nobody can see you because you're on the floor. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's a good girl. All right, let's try this a bit. Subtle peaks. Yeah, it's true matte though is really punishing. True matte is really, really punishing when you're trying to blend. Like, it is not beginner friendly. It's not even like expert friendly. Like, I hate the look of it, but then again, you know, I'm the one who formulated Reaper MSP, and so obviously I formulated the paint line to be the finish that I wanted, right? So no surprise there that I don't like a matter finish. If I did like a matter finish, I would have made that my paint line. But yeah, I've never liked how it deforms color, and it's very demanding because when you paint with true matte paints, it every brush stroke shows. Every brush stroke shows. There's a couple of schools of thoughts on that as far as the cyan, magenta, yellow. Cyan, magenta, and yellow come from printer's inks, but printer's inks are very different from pigments. So with pigment colors, yes, you can mix magenta, yellow, and cyan to create like a lot of different color variation. But you will not get a good orange with it, and you will get a decent purple with it. The problem is that let's just talk Here. Since you're here, big, hold on. This is me, paint line designer Ann. So, okay, what you've got. And actually, you can see this here. If I grab my Chimera, you can even see this. So what you really want is you want 2 reds, 2 yellows, and 2 blues. So you need your cold and your warm red, which in MSP would be, again, clear magenta and clear red. So you want your cold and your warm red. This will enable you to mix good oranges. This enables you to mix good purples. But if you only have one, you're going to not be ever able to mix a good orange. You'll never get a good intense orange. Get these guys out. Then you want at least 2 yellows. And this isn't even considering the earth pigments, by the way. So the 2 yellows you want. And again, with printer's inks, you can get away with a True Spectrum Yellow. It is available. True Spectrum Yellow is available as a pigment in paints. So you could get a True Spectrum Yellow and just dispense with both yellows. But in MSP, that would be... I'm looking. Technically, you could use clear yellow for it. You can see that they are equivalent. But I like canary yellow, maybe just a little bit more. And then lantern yellow from Bones, you can see, right? And this, again, enables you to do oranges and greens. Otherwise, you're not going to get, like, a good, intense color. Now, if you do like muted colors, then, yeah, magenta, cyan, and yellow work for you. I will say that, because then you don't care if you're going to be able to get a really saturated anything, right? And then the blues are, and I don't immediately have a sample. I might have, I don't have everything in here. Do I have? Yeah, we do. Okay, so there are 2 phthalo blues in the world. There is a green shade and a red shade. And Chimera actually trumps, the Master Series clear blue is a red shade. And if you want the green shade blue, then you are absolutely right. Then you reach for cyan blue. So, and those plus white will get you a lot. You can still mix better browns if you get oxides. Probably, I mean, I think the Chimera Orange is using, let me take a look at them. Yeah, they're using a particular orange pigment. Reaper doesn't have an orange pigment. All of our oranges are mixes. That's why we don't have a clear bright orange. This looks a lot like volcanic. But it's not quite red enough. No, Reaper doesn't have an equivalent for the Chimera Orange. Volcanic will be close. Volcanic plus Magma probably gets you the closest. Or Magma Red. Magma might be. Let me see. Hold on. This is a very red orange. No, Magma's too red. So yeah, somewhere between Magma and Volcanic. But I mean, oranges, there's a lot of intense oranges out on the market. I mean, to turn that orange into anything else, I still need to add yellow to it, so. No, because magenta as a pigment is really clear. Like, magenta has just 0 coverage, Falthorn. The only way you're going to get coverage out of a magenta is if you'd have to use like a really thick base, like a Vallejo style base, or people sneak white into it. So, I mean, if you want your magenta to cover better, just add a tiny bit of white to it, it'll cover better. But magenta as a pigment it's a 0.1 or 0.2, I think. Maybe a 0.3, but it's like a really, really small pigment grind. And so it just naturally does not have coverage. It's just one of those things. Every pigment grind is actually dictated by the intensity of the color. You have to grind it to a certain level in order to get that color. So like Naphthol Red goes through 2 grinding phases in order to hit its most intense color. And otherwise you won't get Naphthol Red. So getting magenta with quinacridone pigment is like, it's always going to be no coverage. If somebody has made like an organic magenta pigment that doesn't use quina, then you might be able to get better coverage out of it. But with quinacridone magenta, which is the majority of the magentas in the craft and art world today, it naturally does not have coverage. And there's only so much coverage you can give it with a base. Like if you put it in a tube paint, it's going to be thick, it's going to cover a bit better. If you put it in a thick base like Vallejo, it's going to be thick, it's going to cover a little bit better. But you're still dealing with the weakness of the pigment itself. Does that make sense? Yeah, one of my mentees. There's a Matt DiPietro is kind of uses a colored Zenith base coat, colored sketch underneath. You can start with magenta, you can start with yellow, you can start with blues, you can do whatever, as long as you understand the interactions that are going to happen. I'm not a big fan of colored base coat. I haven't. It's just not really something, like, I look at it and I'm like, okay, but most of that, just like with Zenith, most of that is going to be covered up, right? So what I've learned about it is that you have to make an effort to work more with translucent paints if you're going to do that under base coat and have it actually show through, or you've got a plan to have it show through still in certain areas on the model, in which case, you know, then it works great, right? So if you start with that magenta over a white, you can get a lot of intensity out of it, and then you can leave that kind of like, when you put paint over it, do real thin, right? And you can still reap the benefit of that magenta without having to worry about the coverage, right? Runic Glow is still translucent. Runic Glow has white in it, so it covers better than magenta. You could use Runic Glow as a base coat for magenta pretty well. These guys. So Runic does cover better than clear, and pretty much you could put down a layer of this, your second layer would be this, you'd be fine. There is another magenta in the Pathfinder line, which is Thuvian Sun Orchid, and I think there's another color that's close to it that maybe has a little bit of blue and white in it that has a little bit more coverage. Yeah, and my question with it, Big, has always been, couldn't I just put the magenta on later? Like, for me, I tend not to start with it, and if I want it to show up later, I undercoat with white, and I underpaint. So I use, instead of doing like the underpainting like early on in the model, I do underpainting throughout the model to make my colors show up better. So if I wanted magenta like shadows on this, I would go in with white, and then I would paint magenta over it, and boom, it'd be there. And I can control how much I want and how much I want to be there, right? So there are different there are different ways to the same goal, right? There's always, in this hobby, you'll learn, there are so many different ways to hit the same mark. And so you can start with the magenta, or you could come with the magenta later, and the fact that it doesn't cover just means you put down a little bit of white first. And not just like straight up white, but, you know, maybe thin it. If you want a more subtle effect, thin your white a lot, just put a little bit down and put magenta over it. You'll still see the magenta a lot more than you would have if you just put the magenta over what was there originally. Yeah, I mean, color theory is fun and awesome. It's kind of, I always had a color superpower, so it was kind of ironic that they wanted me to make a paint line, because yay, I got to use my color superpower. Paint mixing, once you learned like the basic pigments and basic interactions, there are a few that'll throw you for a loop. But once you learn those and learn that black is the devil, you'll be okay. It's not true. I do use black on some things if I really want them black. But when you're mixing, black is the devil, because even a tiny bit of black pigment will change the color. It'll take a lot of colors very ashy. The only colors that it won't do that to are things like blue. It'll ashy green a little bit. It's definitely death to reds and yellows. Yellow, though, you can get a good olive out of it. It's just weird. Like when you're doing a lot of mixes, you'll find that black will dull everything. ReaperCon is our Reaper's convention, so we hold it in Texas, which is where Reaper is. And it's in Denton. It's at the Denton Convention Center, which is north of Dallas-Fort Worth by about half an hour. It is, ReaperCon is the con that is very focused on painting and sculpting classes. There is gaming, but it's definitely not the main priority, and most of it is in the evening after classes. And Reaper brings its artists in, sculptors and painters, to teach and to like hang out and answer questions. So if you are looking to level up and to essentially have access to a lot of very good miniature painters, all of whom do everything a little bit differently, which is always good when you're learning. ReaperCon's where it's at. The other one that has a lot of classes is Adepticon. They tend to be longer and more expensive classes in my experience. Not always, depends on the instructor. ReaperCon has a lot more classes, I think. Although I haven't looked at Adepticon stock yet lately, so maybe they've expanded a lot. Adepticon has the advantage of pulling a lot of European talents, at least in the past. So that means that they've got people there teaching, you know, from different countries, and you can get a lot of different ideas from that as well. Ooh, yeah. Take care of your new heart. Like, grats, too. That's awesome that you're doing well. That's impressive. Yeah, ReaperCon is in over the Labor Day weekend, so it's at the beginning of September. End of August, beginning of September. You know, when we can all try to torch you guys with the Texas weather, for those of you from cooler climates. Though now I live in a slightly cooler climate. Cooler than Texas, anyway. I swear, guys, I must look so silly. Like, I go out to take my walk at night, and it is freaking cold. Meaning in the 40s. Yes, I know, you can all laugh at me. But I lived in Texas for 17 years, so give me a break. I grew up in Wisconsin. I know what real cold is, but this is too cold for me. This is why I moved. So, yeah, here I am. I'm bundled up in my wool scarf, my hat, my gloves, my 2 layers of jacket with a thermal shirt underneath it. And this is how I take my walk, because I am a total wimp when it comes to cold. Texas, I was happy in Texas. Even the ice apocalypses, those were hard, but in general. Oh yeah, Big Chimpo, yeah. It's drier Texas because it's DFW, so it's north. Humid Texas is down in Houston. That said, DFW has gotten slightly more humid. We usually punch about 40%. I want to say, it's not bad though. It's not terrible. It's not like being in a swamp. It's just hot. So let's get down closer since I'm actually working here and not talking as much about stuff. Yeah, see, Vic, I knew there would be one in the crowd. I'm going to put my white palette in here because it lets the color shift a little bit more to what it is. So I've got some purples underneath, and I've got... The purples are actually a lot more vibrant in person. They're bleaching out a bit on screen. So I was trying to, by putting my white in here, I was hoping to adjust that a little bit, but... Yeah, I'm in California. Are you in Southern California then, Big? Like, I'm up in the South Bay area. And we're getting 40s at night, and I get whiny. I get very whiny. I'm happy that David takes the puppy on her walk in the morning. How about that? Because, like, I would not be able to. Oh, San Diego. Yep. Yeah, definitely. What's the season, huh? Beautiful weather, though. So I'm doing stipples here now. You can see the stipples. You can actually see that I've got brush strokes here. So I'm going to get my tropical blue, which is my base coat, and kind of stippling at the edge of here. So I smush these around a little. And in that way, I'll be able to blend everything in. Yeah, no seasons, just climate. Yeah, people do come without their spouses. But I could get it, Kodiak. A lot of the, like several of the artists come without their spouses because their spouses just aren't into it. And they just room with each other. So you can always find a roomie if you're ever willing to do it. But I mean, we also do a little bit of stuff online now for ReaperCon, so Call the weekend away. Yep. Yep. Yeah, I was in Texas I grew up in Wisconsin. I spent a little time out on the East Coast, and then I went down to Texas to work for Reaper and stayed for 17 years. And then right at the start of the pandemic, I took the leap and moved out here to be with David, and now we are married and have a puppy who is currently being like squirrely out there in the hallway. So yeah, and I was born out here in California. My dad actually was in the Navy out here, but they couldn't afford to stay out here on his salary, so they moved back to the Midwest where I grew up. So I've been all over the place. I've been on each coast, and then North Midwest and South Midwest. Got to try out everywhere. I definitely have a different favorite season in each place too. Like in Texas, it's definitely springtime. Springtime in Texas is gorgeous. And in the East Coast, it's definitely fall, because the fall lasts for freaking ever. And it's so beautiful. No, it's not cheap, that's for sure. My Wisconsin season is summer for sure. I was born in June, so summer was always my favorite because you just got out of school, so you're like, yay, summer, and you've got the whole summer ahead of you, and the weather is at the nicest that it's going to be in the Midwest. So yeah, it takes a while to bring out my little poofy clouds here. And I feel like I still need a little bit more shading in some of these areas. So I may pop some purple with some tropical blue and see if I can get a indigo shader here. Because I feel like I want more shadow back in these areas here. Yeah, and then California actually has gone back and forth. Like, I do love summer out here. I love the heat. That's the Texas in me talking. But the falls are also beautiful. And the springtime, when it's just starting to hit the 70s and all the leaves are coming out and the flowers are everywhere, like, it's just really nice out here. I don't have a super favorite. Like, there's not a clear winner in my favorite season for California yet. Except that it's not, well, but even winter. Like, we went to Yosemite during the winter time, and it was really wonderful. So I can't even really, like, hate the winter here. Like, if the winter went a little bit farther, then I would be but the winter right now is still on good terms with me. Yeah. Trying to blend in this is very difficult, this area. Yeah, in Cali, yeah. Yeah, I was born, I actually live right now, the Big 40. I actually live in the town I was born in. When I went to get my first mammogram, it was actually at the hospital that I was born in the building next to where I was born. And I did not plan this. This was when I was moving out. I had my old dog, who was also a Shiloh Shepherd, Kiri, and she's a big girl. And David had this tiny apartment closer to downtown San Francisco, and he's just like, you should move in with me. And I'm like, Kiri and I will not fit in this apartment. So he just went out and went looking for a different apartment. And then he's like, yeah, I got a place in Mountain View. And I was like, what? So it was very funny. So I've ended up back in the town I was born in. I do really like Mountain View. Like, we looked around at some other places when we were looking for houses. And it's just, there's nowhere else. Like, Mountain View has this, like, a lot of trees. They've preserved their greenery, and it makes a big difference in the feel of the city. Yeah, Marvel, I get it. Yeah, when you've got kids, that throws a monkey wrench in, right? All right, I'm gonna grab my blue again. I feel like I've over purpled a little bit. I need to blend in this area a little. Yeah, I really like this town. And it's right down the street from Palo Alto. Like, literally, if I drive, like, 4 streets over, I'm in Palo Alto, which has an amazing, like, selection of restaurants and, like, shops and little cool boutique places and my favorite grocery store in the world and things like that. There we go. A little bit more blendy. Okay, losing a little bit of the periphery here. Yeah, so I really do like it out here. Plus, you know, we're 4 hours from freaking Yosemite, and we're like 35 minutes from San Francisco proper. But I still feel like I live in a smaller town, because it's still, we've got some cool things, but it doesn't feel built up. It's not like San Jose. Hey, thanks for this gift sub. Oh, to Calablome. Very good. Thanks, Grand Oracle. That's really nice. You worked in... Oh, in Palo Alto, too. Yeah. Sure, Grand Oracle. No problem. Have fun. Yeah, I'm trying to make it look shimmerier. Shimmerier. It takes a while to dial in, like, what colors I want to use. Like, it's a little easier, I think, if you're doing it with more white, like with more pale colors. But I only have a little bit, so I'm trying to just bring in my Spectral Glow plus white. It actually is much darker in person, and it's a lot richer in color in person. We're losing the purples a lot here. Maybe I'll go post on my Discord if I can get a photo. Yeah, the Reaper crew is cool. We have a real good fan base. Good people. Yeah, we'll see if I make it this year. If I can, it's going to be like making the drive with Kiki or getting a dog sitter. Depends on how the doglet is doing at that point. There we go. A little bit more stipples just to make that softer. So as I'm stippling, it's creating that softer look. At the end, if I really want to soften everything out and get rid of all the texture, I would do repeated glazing to tile that in. So I've got a lot of areas under here that I can just paint purple. The undersides of things. So I usually tell you guys to just paint the undersides of things dark, right? So the underside of this, his armor back here is definitely gonna go all the way down to like walnut. But I'll do a little bit of purple back here and maybe put a little bit of blue on underneath. Yeah, I don't know. Kiki, I would rather have her at home, maybe with a house sitter, if we can afford one. But ReaperCon is also dog friendly because Dave, one of Reaper's owners, is very pro doggo, and also the Hilton is dog friendly. Hilton properties recently all went dog friendly universally. I learned that when I was bringing Kiki home from her breeder. We drove from North Dakota all the way back to California, 3.5 days, and stayed at I don't remember which one I stayed. Maybe it was the Hampton that I stayed at, where the person told me that Hilton had just gone all dog friendly, and the con hotel for ReaperCon is the Embassy Suites, and it's a Hilton property. So I can bring Kiki. She is kind of a star. People know Kiki on the stream, so if she is well behaved by the time it comes around, then I will consider it, even though it's a drive. But as David pointed out, if we drove down to ReaperCon, we could also take time. We could stop at the Grand Canyon on the way down, and we could stop in Santa Fe on the way back, which appeals to me. So we could turn it into a proper vacation, in other words. Road trip vacation. So now I've got some purple there, you can see that. But when you look at it from the front, you just get that hint of purple. And I think I want to move to a slightly bigger brush for this. I want to block in a lot of color here. I missed a mold line there. I gotta fix that. Hold on. Yeah, of course there's going to be a tour that weekend. Yeah, you'd have to. I mean, it's a holiday weekend, so I can see how there would be tours. Would be considered a good weekend for that. A little bit. The nice thing about bones is you can just take it off with a knife and then just paint right over it. There we go. It's a little better. Oh, I love Santa Fe. Oh, I used to travel to Santa Fe all the time, Valthorpe. I know. I work for somebody in Santa Fe. I do commission work for somebody in Santa Fe. So all while I was in Texas, I would drive, because it was only 8 hours away, so I'd drive up to Santa Fe once a year. Yeah, I know Santa Fe really well. And I dragged David with me right before the pandemic. We took a trip together up there. So sadly, yeah, the spicy is a little bit too much for me on the green chili. And I was told by Santa Fe native, you want to get it Christmas anyway. You want to get red and green chili both. But a lot of times it's too hot for my palate these days. I'm a bit of a wimp. So we're popping in some purple down here in the shadow. And I'm going to grab my tropical blue and do some blending. I'm going to use my Reaper Zero. I'm going to use a brush with more thickness and breadth to it to do the blends, because I'm going over a pretty large area here. Yeah, I miss being able to go to Santa Fe all the time, actually. Yeah, that is one thing that ReaperCon does that other cons aren't as good at, I find, is community, sense of community. All right, so we've got our purple here, and now we're going to be transitioning because we're going to be going over into greens here. So I need to take care of that rough little cloud thing. How did I get that rough little cloud thing? There we go. For some reason we had a real rough surface on that little cloud. And take care of it. But yeah, ReaperCon's great. It's a very energizing con. As long as you don't take too many classes. It's my one recommend. Aim for 1 to 2 a day. Much as you might be tempted to overcommit, your brain will not be able to absorb all the info. Alright, let's get a little bit of purple under here. I may see if I can continue to use my purple shading going into the green here. It'll be interesting. Yes, Valthorn, thanks for the plug. MSP Open is a painting competition that Ed, now sadly passed away, and myself developed based on the World Expo Open system used by a lot of the historical clubs. And it is a merit-based system, so it's a medal-based system. So if you enter, it's not limited as to the number of like golds, silvers, bronzes, etc. If your work deserves a gold, you get a gold. It's not like one person gets a gold, one person gets silver, and nobody else gets anything. The other thing that makes the MSP Open, I think, really unique is that our judges make themselves available for you, and not always right after the ceremony anymore, but because it goes late. But the next day, you should you can find out who your judges were and go to them and get direct feedback on your work. So it is, and that is very different from other competitions. So the judges at ReaperCon make an effort to make themselves available. But yeah, any level of painter can enter MSP Open. The categories are based not on skill, but they're based on subjects, kind of painting technique, I guess you would call it. You've got the painters category, which is just for stock models or converted models, but ones where you don't want people to judge the conversion. So it'll be painters, we judge the paint job, and that's it for the most part. Maybe 5% is basing. And then Open is for conversions and sculpts, where we're judging not only the paint job, but also the quality of the sculpt or conversion. And then we have diorama, which obviously you know what dioramas are. So, and those are all eligible for Reaper's Manufacturer Award as well. So it's not just that you get the medal system, but you also have manufacturers supporting awards at the MSP Open. So Reaper and Midnight Heroes and usually Dark Sword and other Bombshell Miniatures, they all support awards at ReaperCon. So entering one model, if you like make good choices, you can actually be entering your model not just in the regular competition, but also in a manufacturer award competition. So it's cool. There are lots of ways to win, and even if you're not in it for the winning, you can get some really good feedback from the judges and from just the painters in general. Like, even if I didn't judge your entry, if somebody comes up and asks me for feedback and I have the time, I make the time to give them feedback. Usually I'm too brain dead on Sunday to do anything else. Sure. Yeah, I did go more into the paint chem and color stuff, didn't I, Trojan? But yeah, it was good to have you here, as always. And Trojan, do you come to ReaperCon? I don't remember if I've met you there or not. Although you may have already popped out. No, never been. Oh, okay. was gonna say, just have to let me know if you come, and then I'll make sure that the Kiki is chained to the back, and she cannot get at you under the table. I will control my papa if I bring her. Unlikely unless there's a info. Gotcha. All right, that's cool. We will resign ourselves to the pleasure of your company on stream. Oh, I hear twitchy paws. She's dreaming. I can see her little paws twitching. I love that. Tiny little dreamy twitchy paws. All right, so I'm just pretty much blocking in some purples. You can see down here some shadows. So I have that set for when next we paint. We got a fair amount of this stuff done. We didn't touch the blue up here, though, on the actual model, so we'll have to deal with that coming up. But I'm pretty happy with how this is looking now. Now that you can see now that the swirls here have a lot more dimension, right? So as we work, yeah, I can really see these now. They're not just flat, so I'm very happy about that. Yeah, Grand Oracle did. Colorblind. Yes, Kariniko's got it. Good deal. So there we are, peeps. I think we're good. So it's, yeah, he's coming along. I really love the peach. I love how the peach looks. So now all the rest of this will come up. And then we can work on the gold and the armor in general. But yeah. Yeah, almost. Well, he's very he's you know, he's that way. He's a very stylish genie. I like him. I like him a lot. I like this color scheme. I'm glad we chose a different color scheme than the usual. I don't think we've ever done peach on a model before. So tomorrow, y'all, we're back to black. We're doing our gothy necromancer girl, where we're doing different shades of black. And we had started out with our reddish black. So I may put one little, once we have that all in, I think I'm going to put a highlight on it just to remind myself what we're doing there. Yes, so we're back in this girl. So yeah, there we go. And we'll have to figure out her skin tone. It's going to be really pale, I know. Might do her kind of undead. I'm not sure. Might use a gray undertone. We'll see. Oh yeah, shipment from Reaper. Very cool. Very cool. All right, so yeah, tomorrow we're going to work on Terrazinia, isn't it? Yeah, Terrazinia. We'll work on her. And I hope you all have a lovely, had a good start to your week and that it continues. So we are going to go for a walk. So I'm going to let you all go. Oh, maybe crow's nest. Maybe, maybe not. Excellent. All right, everybody. Have a fun one, and I will see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.